Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Agent Box. Thursday, 11 o'clock. You know, this is happening. A very good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. From me, Sham, and from
And
my co-host.
Abir, and happy Ramadan to everyone who is celebrating.
No. Hey, did we have one last? No, did we? We didn't say that last week, did we? No.
We didn't.
No. Yes, that's how bad. Okay, so Abir, how have you been, man? What's been happening?
It's all right. I have been car hunting for the past few days, so that's on my
Ah,
mind. Apart from
okay.
agent works, of course, but getting a car in the UK is a nightmare.
You know what? It didn't used to be that complicated before, but I think you know what it is. It depends if you're looking for a used car. Prices have gone up. It's much more expensive now than what it used to be. But what kind of car are you looking for?
I don't know. I'm split between quite a few options, to be honest. I feel like a kid in a candy store. I don't know which
Mm.
one to get.
Hey man, it's a man after my own heart. I'm always looking for cars. There's always any excuse to get a new car. But there you go. Anyway, dude, I hope you've had a good week. Those of you that have able to join us, if you're watching this on a recording, I'm just feeling really tired at the moment. I've had a very, very busy week. And just, I don't know whether it's because the weather's changing or something, just feeling a little bit under the weather, just not feeling 100%. You know, it's every day is a bit of a struggle. The other thing is actually, I've got into a bad habit of waking up really early every morning. And that means
Isn't
that
it throttling too much?
no, I don't know what it is. It's just, and then by the afternoon, evening, I'm just so tired. It's unbelievable. But then I just wake up really early in the morning. Anyway, look, listen, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit sensitive, it's a little bit touchy. You know, I've been dealing with this for a very, very long time. I know I wrote some policies when I was working at one of the universities to try and address this problem. And it's the problem of agent hopping. Okay, now, if you don't know what this is, I'm sure you do know what it is. But you might not have heard it as an agent hopping. This is a term that certainly we used to use in the universities. This is when a student this is not, I tell you what, it's not a beer hopping around his room on one leg. That's not what we're talking about. We're
Or
talking
not
about
Easter, but it's Easter time soon. So puppies are going to follow you around, hiding your eggs.
agent hopping is where a student goes to an agent and puts in an application, and then for whatever reason they decide at some point that they don't want to continue with that particular agent, and then they go to another agent. And it's possible, I have seen, where a student has hopped to lots of different agents, and this creates a massive headache for the agents, for us, dealing with those students, but also for the universities, because then there comes the issue of, who's going to claim commission, who's not going to claim commission. I mean, one of the products that I work with is something called Sam's Pay. And what this is a commission software that we provide for universities. And I can tell you that this issue of agent hopping has to be addressed in that software, because it is a real problem. It is a real problem that universities face. Now, the question that we wanted to talk about on today's episode is actually, I think, well, before I say the question that we want to talk about, I think there is a feeling here amongst many universities that somehow agents are at fault, that somehow this is something to do with agents, and agents trying to be a little bit clever, maybe even a little bit unethical, and they're just dealing, they're stealing somehow. This is, let's be honest, it's somehow kind of, you're stealing another agent's student. Now, these are serious accusations if they're ever made. And
Well,
I've never,
agents are always the criminal, aren't they? So
no, but you know what, Abir, I've never, kind of used that kind of language when I've worked at universities, right? Because you can't, without evidence, you can't, and it doesn't help the situation using language like that. That one agent is stealing students from another agent. There's hundreds of reasons why this could happen. The question that we want to talk about today is, how do you navigate around this issue? Do you know what I mean? How do we get around this issue of agent hopping? I don't think there's a right or wrong position that we can take on this. I think students are going to do it, But Abir, what's your thoughts? Initial thoughts?
to be honest, I personally do not encourage agent changing. If unless there has been severe issue. Because in my humble opinion, and also I feel that the universities are on the same page as well, because we are getting paid by the university because we're selling that particular university. So
Mm,
if a university has already placed an application for that particular university, he has already made the sell in a way. But I
mm,
also understand that the journey is not complete. So during the journey, someone can change their mind and go to different places. But I do understand why the university is coming from. But also from the agent's point of view, a lot of times, for example, we did not go out there and hunt those students. The
mm,
students, in their own free will, came to our office and wants to work with us. In that scenario, my argument was like, what can I do? I didn't go went out there, told that student. The student, in his free will, came to me and want my support. So, as an agent, it's my responsibility in a way to help that particular student. But at the same time, I'm not running a charity, am I? So if I
mm.
don't get paid by the university, I cannot help that student out. Or can I?
Yeah, I mean these are serious issues, man. I mean, look, from a university's point of view, and I have to say that this is my opinion, right? This is I'm not talking for any particular university. That in my opinion, certainly the experiences that I've had and the way that I've dealt with. Sorry, guys, again, work going on in the house, man. Some weird noise in the background. The way that I've dealt with this issue is that oh dear, this is going to be not good. Just give a second, right? Okay. That as far as I'm concerned, that
It's all right. That's the background music. We got
I know what they're doing, right? So I'm kind of thinking, okay, guys, hurry up with that, right? Let's just get it over and done with. No, you know what it is, right? So I'm going to try and talk over it. I'm going to speak loudly.
maybe
So
next time we invite the builders to talk in
yeah,
the
yeah,
podcast as well.
I did warn them. Look, I'm going jumping into a call right now. That's oh man, it's not going to last forever. This is what I know. I know what they're doing. But the point that I was trying to make is let's rewind for a second. Let's step back for a second. Let's look at the stakeholders. Who we're talking about. We're talking about the university. We're talking about the student, and we're talking about the agent. Right now, the relationship from the university point of view is really with the student. That's who the customer is. The student is the customer. The agent is a stakeholder, is a partner, but the customer is the student, right? And I think a lot of university colleagues will agree that a student, from a university's point of view, a student is at liberty to use whichever agent that my university is contracted to. Okay, if I'm contracted to X, Y, and Z agents, the student has absolute free will to do that. Now, if the student is unhappy with the agent that they chose, then they also have the right to go to another agent. So there's no problem in any of this. You know what I mean? So the idea of agent hopping from a university point of view is not it's not an evil deed. There's nothing wrong in this because the student has the ability to make that decision, and the university will be happy with whatever the student wants to do, so long as they're using a contracted agent, right? The difficulty comes when the difficulty for the university is how to then manage this, like you said, from a commissionable point of view. To be able to offer commission. How do we go ahead and do that, right? And it's the same for direct students. Let's not forget, Abir, for a second, right? That students are applying to universities from their bedroom. They're making an application to the university from their bedroom, and then they may or may not get an offer, but they might then realize that, oh my God, I can't do this on my own. Or what tends to happen, I think, more in today's world is through social media. They realize, oh, there are people out there, there are so-called agents who can help me do this, and they're not going to charge me any money. So why am I bothering to do this on my own? I can go and talk to an agent and let them sort it out. So you get a situation where a student may have applied directly, but then has now decided to go and use an agent.
Yeah.
Or a friend of theirs has used an agent, or through some social media they've figured out, oh, okay, I can go and use an agent. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that it's not a black and white situation. That there are so many tiers of gray in there as to why a student might want to do it. What is the policy of the university, right, in terms of allowing someone to do it. Personally, I think the university should allow students to choose their agent, and even mid-cycle choose their agent.
To be honest, in my humble opinion, I feel it has to be a case by case decision making process. There cannot be a blanket rule that we don't do it or we do it, because every case would be different, like you
Mm.
said.
Well, you see, the thing is, for me, talking about the navigation part, right, of how do you navigate this issue, I think both universities and agents have a part to play in this. Okay. And I'm going to take you back to the beginning of my career when I started off working in the universities, and I spent about 3 years working for an agency based down in London, and then went back to the universities. When I was working for that agency down in London, what we did is every single student that came into our offices, or we had an event, they arrived at the event. Back in those days, and I am going back many, many years, over 20 years ago, do you know what I mean? We didn't have QR codes and or anything like that. We used pen and paper in those days. Quite frankly, we did an event and we had pen and paper. You had a registration form. Students would fill out the registration form. Now, what we used to do is, after the event, or if that student was a walk-in, the very first thing we would do is get them to sign a piece of paper, a form that asks the question, have you used an agent before to apply to the UK? And just as a blanket statement at that point, because then the counselor later on can figure out, okay, who did you use, can ask those questions. But at the very first instance, the question would be that, have you applied to the UK to study in the UK through any other agent before? And if the answer is no, then we know, fine, okay, it's a clean student, no problem. I think part of the question was, have you ever applied to the university directly as well? So there were certain qualifying questions that we were asking. The reason being is because we were finding this to be a bit of a problem. And if I fast forward till even 10 years ago, I know that this was a major problem at one of the universities where I used to work. That we used to have every year during commission time. My responsibility was to sign off on commission. Every commission run, we'd have these cases where we didn't know, and then the student is being claimed by agent X and agent Y, and then there's this uncomfortable kind of negotiation
So let
conversation.
me put a question forward to you. So, if for any particular student, if you had any cases like two agents or even multiple agents were claiming commission for a particular student, from a university's point of view, how would you tackle that situation, and how would you, like,
The
what would be your
difficulty,
process?
the difficulty is, unless you have a policy on this issue, right, it becomes subjective. It's arbitrary. There isn't any defined regulation that says, oh well, the student applied, so therefore with agent X, therefore I'm going to offer X percentage to agent X for the sake of that application, but then was handled from this point to this point by agent Y, so I'm going to offer X amount to them. Usually, if it was just two agents, you'd try and do a 50-50 split, or which neither agent was happy with. You understand? Because both agents have spent a lot of time and energy, and they feel the right that, no, this is my agent, my student. So what I did, so it's a difficult conversation, right? It's a very uncomfortable conversation, and it's a very touchy subject. So what I did at the university that I was working at the time, we created a policy where we said, okay, every student is allowed to use whatever agent they want, and they can change their agent if that's what they want to do. Because what I can't control as a university, bearing in mind the student is my customer, I can't control the quality of service they're going to get from my contracted agents. I don't know that. I can train my agents all I like. I can do whatever, but the student might just not like you, Abir. If you were one of my agents, it could be the case, and you're the counselor dealing with that student, and the student just didn't like you, didn't get on with you, he didn't hit it off, and just thinks that you're no good. And meanwhile, he's got a friend who's having a great time with another agency because he's absolutely enjoying the relationship and likes the person that's dealing with him. So then he says to me, oh look, don't use a beer, go, oh, why are you complaining about this, use my guy. So now I'm going to move, right? What I did when I was at that university is I said, look, okay, so you're allowed to do that, but say you went to a beer first and you put in an application with a beer. On our application form, it will have a beer's company stamp. And subsequently on the university system, if anybody goes into that record, they will see a beers company there as tagged to that particular student. And if they've had a decision and an offer, all of that is all systematically in there. We introduced a policy where we said, right, if you want to change, you cannot change after deposit. So that was a fixed rule, right? If you've already paid the deposit, then you cannot change. I'm sorry. But if you haven't paid a deposit and you want to change, then if you have an offer, you have to go into the system and decline that offer. By doing that, you are nullifying the application that you made through Abir. If you don't have an offer yet, you need to go into the system and withdraw the application that you've made.
So either way, you are discouraging the student to change agent, if I am getting this right.
We're asking the student to think twice. We're asking the student to think, so it doesn't become a flippant thing. It doesn't become something that you just do because you're having coffee with a mate and a mate saying, oh, just go, oh yeah, I'll WhatsApp your guy and then, you know, I'll work with your guy. No, you can't. It's not as simple as that. You know, even if the student did that and say agent Y put in an application, then the admissions team would hit back to agent Y saying, hang on a minute. Our records show that this student already has an application lodged by another agent. Okay. So we are going to write to the student and tell him to cancel that application. Once that application is canceled on the system, it clearly says application has been canceled. Immediately, agent Y can make a new application, then it comes in as a new application. Of course, what it does is, if you have an offer, if you're a student and you've got an offer, you might think twice before, because the whole process is going to start again. Do you know what I mean? So you might think twice about declining an offer just because your mate told you to go with another agent.
So I'm thinking from the top of my head here. So for example, if I'm the agent Y, and if my student has been offered this advice, subconsciously I might be thinking, oh, is the university rewarding bad service here because he doesn't want, the university doesn't want.
No, but you and I, look, as a university, I don't know what the reasons are. Because the student has got every opportunity to contact us and say, you know what, I'm with your agent and your agent is absolutely rubbish. The student has got the ability to ask us that. Very, very rarely, I can't remember a single instance where we were able to get information from a student as to why they want to change the agent. We want to know, is it bad? What is it? What is it?
Usually, in my experience, when we try to like an agent nomination form or agent exit form, there usually a box where you have to write, the student has to write, why does he want to change agent?
Hang on, that I'm trying to go on mute because of the noise. But, okay, so now here, say now they're using the second agent, right? And they're putting in an application. At that point, yes, the student needs to provide evidence, right? That or a letter or something. But here's another issue. And I have to say this, I've got to put it out there. Many, many instances, I've looked at these letters that the student has sent, okay, don't look like anything the student's written. Do you know what I mean? Because how do I police that? How do I police that? That they've gone to a second agent, the agent's got these written in bulk and just basically, here, look, send it off. Here we go. The counselor sending it off saying it's from the student, maybe even using the student's email address. So this becomes very loose. And when you have got a tight relationship with both agents, it's difficult then for you to make a decision as to who you're going to believe and who you're not going to believe.
Yeah.
So the easiest way that we could do that is by getting the student to take some action rather than having this debate and discussion with these two agents. But without discouraging, we didn't want to close that route down that you cannot change, because our customer does have the right to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what I get from our discussion so far is the student is the boss, right? So whatever the student decides, and the student is
they're the customer. So they're the customer. It's just that there are certain rules that the customer needs to maintain in order for our business process to work. You understand?
So as an agent, so my question to you now would be, so as an agent, what steps we can do, how we can actually navigate.
So this is an interesting, kind of place to get to, because Okay, so the university can put down certain policies and procedures. And like I've said, what I did before, we had this particular policy, which, by the way, the admissions team thought was brilliant. You know what I mean? And they really liked that because it was clear cut. There was, and when it came to evidencing commissions, it was really easy to look into the system and see, oh yeah, application did come from agent X, but actually it was agent Y that submitted a new application, and that's where the students enrolled. Okay, what can the agent do? Like I said to you, when I was in this company back when, it's just spending 30 more seconds talking to the student. Now, Abir, you know how I feel about this. I think that we as agents have lost or are losing the art of counseling. We don't want to do this. We don't want to talk to our students. We just want to process. We don't want to investigate. We don't feel we have the time, or we're somehow losing business to the competition if we spend any time talking to our student. And I think that's fundamentally wrong, because by adding another 30 to 40 seconds of that conversation, you can find out whether this student has ever used, and get them to sign something, because a student might not want to tell you, because why? They're hedging their bets. They made an application with agent X, but they're also going to make an application with you as well. So you don't want to be in that situation. So ask the student, get them to sign something. And if this is a problem for you, you're facing this problem that you're sending 200 applications and at least 10 of those students allegedly are enrolling through somebody else, and you're suffering as a business, what I would do is I would say something to the student like, I'm asking you to sign this. I've asked you the question, have you applied through any other agent? You've answered no, and you've signed it. If subsequently I find out that you have, then you owe me my commission, or a part of my commission, that there is a charge that I will make for you for my services. Because like you said, I'm not running a charity. It just means that people start to think about these things a little bit more seriously. I mean, because we are in a world where we've industrialized student recruitment. And I'm not, sorry guys, I'm not desperately comfortable with that industrialization. Do you know what I mean? I still believe that this is a relationship-based product that we're selling. It's something that hopefully is going to change the lives of these students. So we need to engage with the student, not just on WhatsApp or on paper, but actually communicating and figuring out. And I keep saying this, we say this every week, that given the fact that we've got fewer applications in the market, we want better conversions. If we're not engaging with those students, we're not spending that time, then we're not going to be able to convert. And we're wasting energy. Worst case scenario is somebody else gets paid. They picked it up, at the last minute, and then they got paid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. But I think, I don't know what your experiences are on this, Abir, whether you've ever faced this issue as an agent, whether you've ever been told by a university that, look, you know what, this is what's happened.
So to be honest, I have been on the both side of the spectrum in a way. So I have had cases where someone has applied to someone else and now came to me because he needs better support, or his peer praised about it. So in that scenario, what we would like the student to do, we would like the student to write a statement, and in a written statement sent to us through email, like formal communication chain, what happened actually there, and why that particular student would not want to work with his previous agent and wants to work with us. Then after vetting that statement, we would send it out to my partner university. They say, this is what happened. Do you want me to help that particular student, or do you want me to tell him that I can't? And then once we get that confirmation from the university, we would let the student know. So we're very transparent that when the student would come, we directly tell them, see, this is a scenario. We'll have to check with the university whether they will allow us to work or not. If they allow us to work, we'll be more than happy to work. But if they don't, then, like you said, there might be a charge involved. There might be a fees involved, because if you still want my help in that regard.
Yeah, I think. No, go on. Sorry, go on, Abir.
The other scenario is like when all of a sudden one fine morning I wake up and I get an email from a university partner that, oh, this particular student has requested an agent change and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. And then the first thing that I needed to do as a manager or a leader of that organization, that I would find out what actually happened with that particular student. What are the communications that went on?
Yeah.
And especially, that's why I think our sponsors come into play. I would look into the CRM system and see what actually happened, what communication went on. Did you actually service the student? Where is there a service issue that we did not look into? Then I would talk to the student like, oh, I am from here. You applied through us. I understand that you want to change agent. I just wanted to understand like where you are coming from, what are the issues, and if we could like pacify some of the issues, if we could get him back. If we can, then of course we'll let the partner university know that yeah, that happened. I need to apologize for the inconvenience, and we wish the student good luck to whoever he chooses to work with.
I think, yeah, I think, you know, everything that you're talking about, what I'm thinking while you're talking is that, look, it's time, isn't it? It's time, it's effort that you need to spend. And I get the impression that a lot of agents out there are under so much pressure. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong in this, but they're under so much pressure that actually spending that amount of time, it seems like too much effort. Do you know what I mean? It's just,
it's like
you
you said, it's the industrialization of this industry. That's what happens. So we are not, we have lost that art of counseling, talking to people. We forgot why we are doing this in the first place.
Yeah, and I think this is an important. It's a hard truth, to be honest. It is a hard truth that, you know, that we do need to. Yes, we want to maximize revenue. You know, we want to basically be successful businesses, but at the same time, we can't, you know, brush everybody with the same brush, so to speak. You know, tar everybody with the same brush. It doesn't work like that. And I genuinely think that spending a few more minutes talking to the student and actually getting to the bottom of this does make life you know, a lot easier. But also, you know, also I think we should be talking to our university partners, understanding what is their policy. Have we ever asked that question? It's probably somewhere buried inside the contract that we don't even know, we haven't even looked at properly. But we should ask the question to our partners that, look, you know, what is your policy in terms of agent hopping? That if a student decides to move, you know, so that I understand and I know exactly where I stand when it comes to, you know, this issue. And also understanding that, you know, if that any potential student that I'm dealing with, I could end up losing 50% of my commission because the university might turn around, like you said, one fine morning and say, well, actually, this student was counseled by another agent for a section of the student journey. Again, you're absolutely right. Not having a CRM system in place, not having, you know, systems where you can identify exactly where a student is on a student journey, how engaged they are with you. All of these things are going to add up to basically create this problem. Look, my God, we're 28 minutes in, man. You know, it's again, I mean, it is a topic that is sensitive and it is a little bit difficult to talk about. And I know that as agents, we are all, you know, you know, everybody, you know, kind of knows everybody else. The communities are not that sort of big, and you know, you've got to try and work through a very polite, you know, kind of way, but it does hurt the pocket, and when it hurts the pocket, that's the problem, you know. Look, again, like with most things that we talk about here on the Agent Box, I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of this in a single discussion in half an hour, but it's certainly something to think about. And I'd love to hear from viewers about, you know, their experiences, whether this is a bigger problem than what we think it is, or it's actually a not actually that big a problem and only affects a handful of agents every now and again. It is something that I'd like to hear from people about, because we as agents can go back to universities and say, look, guys, you know what? I think you need to change your policy on this, or you need to readdress this, or you need to look at, you know, doing things a bit differently, because it's affecting how, you know, your partners are operating in the market. In any case, Abir, look, let's try and wrap this up. You know, I haven't made a shout out to our sponsor. Thankfully, you did. You know, the Agent Box is possible because we're sponsored by Sam CRM, which is a CRM that's been designed by agents for agents. So please head over to their website, you know, or drop them an email, sales@crm.co.uk, or you can have a look on the website, which is samcrm.co.uk, and book a demo, find out what it's all about. I definitely think we need to have CRM systems as agents. I think it's going to become mandatory going forward because of questions like this, because of lots of other topics that we're talking about. It seems to me that they all reverberate around this issue of having control over your pipeline, understanding where your pipeline is. And that is only possible when you have a system that works for you. And in today's world, why would it not be in the form of a CRM system and not some, kind of manual system that you might have? That's it. I think, Abir, that's all the time we've got. This week we've got well into half an hour. A massive shout out to people that do join us live. And for those people that are downloading, the website is available. I think the producer is going to make some changes to the website, but we've got various other, kind of platforms that we're promoting ourselves on. I think, just a little announcement, this is episode number 7. I think when we get to episode number 10, we're going to have a bit of a recap. We're going to have a bit of a reset. And then there's going to be a new bunch of episodes that come in after that. So with that said, I just want to say thank you very much to everybody. Thanks to you, Abir. Thanks to the producing team. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. And hopefully Sunday Times have watched this, so they have got content for their next issue. Front page content. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
See you later. Bye now. Bye-bye.